Hey, this is Bill Desy with CCW USA. I'm here with Tactical Hive. We get a lot of questions on the forums about how to stop flinching. How do I manage that flinch response? Well, your flinch response is actually a natural response from your body, and it should happen. You should flinch when something happens. When you go to lift something up that's heavy and you count to 3, 1, 2, 3, lift, your body's tensing up and tightening up. We apply that to a lot of other things that we're doing, whether it's punching somebody, throwing an elbow, a knee, any kind of physical combatives. You're going to tighten your body up, you're going to relax, you're going to tighten right when you depart that energy from your body. Problem is, it doesn't work well with firearms. With firearms, what we want to do is kind of the opposite. It's a lot more like golf. What I really want to do with my trigger press is take out the slack in the trigger, manipulate that trigger correctly, and press the trigger without flinching. Now, how do I do that if I'm thinking about the flinch? It's very difficult. The best way I've found to get new shooters to minimize their flinch is really to focus 100% of their attention on that front sight, the other 100% on that trigger. So really we're going 50 front sight, 50 trigger, and really focus on getting that surprise break. An easy way to do that is count to 5 or count to 10 as you're pressing the trigger. It'll probably go off around 2 or 3, but we're counting to 10 or counting to 5, so we're thinking 1, 2, 3, bang, the gun goes off. We're not going 1, 2, 3, tighten up or tense up. I see this a lot with boxers and martial artists, is they'll really tense up right when they press the trigger, and that causes the gun to deviate. This causes the sights to misalign, causes the shot to go somewhere they didn't expect it to. So really focusing on your sights lined up on your target, focusing on that trigger manipulation, correct trigger manipulation with the slack out, just the amount of pressure needed, slow, steady press, going slow and steady to the rear, and letting it surprise you when it goes off. Count to 5, count to 10 as you're going through that trigger press, and don't focus on when the gun's actually going to fire. You want to count to 5 or 10 because that gives your mind a focal point that you're focused on. So as you're pressing the trigger, you're thinking 1, 2, you're going all the way to 5 or all the way to 10. You're not going to think about the trigger releasing at 3 or 4 or somewhere in that 2, 3, 4 section when it actually should release. So it's kind of a way of tricking your mind into manipulating the trigger without focusing on when it's going to go off. We're so focused on that when moment that we go 1, 2, 3 and mash the trigger or flinch, tightening up any part of your left hand, your right hand, your arms, your biceps, your triceps, any part of your body tenses up. As you press the trigger, you move the gun. So by keeping the gun steady, keeping the gun, your position locked in, and just moving the trigger, we get center shots on the target where we're aiming. And it minimizes the opportunity for a flinch. I always start new shooters with a 22, if at all possible. 22 caliber, like a Ruger, 22 caliber bull barrel Mark II, Mark III pistol really is going to minimize the amount of recoil. It's going to minimize the amount of flinch. They're not going to develop or build a startle response or a flinch response that's dramatic because they're not seeing as much recoil. So starting people out with a smaller caliber or a heavier gun is definitely more beneficial. You don't want to start somebody with a .357 Magnum or a .44 Magnum right out the gate. We really want to get people kind of build up that tolerance. And in a short period of time, you can build up from 22 to 38 to 9mm to any of these calibers. And you'll find that the recoil is very manageable and the flinch response can really be minimized or negated with some dry fire practice. In summary, counting to 5 or 10, slow press of the trigger, really focusing on the correct gun, the correct ammunition, and having a good grip on the pistol is definitely going to help as well. But focus on those fundamentals. I'm Bill with Tactical Hive. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask away on the forums.